every amount of pain there.
Something big, like a Star Wars or a Marvel.
Wouldn't have been good, but would have been like,
No!
You are at the movies with Ace
And Martin.
and we are kicking things off reviewing a very interesting movie today. Probably the longest title of a movie we'll ever review, I think. We got To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, a 1995 comedy drama that follows three New York drag queens who set out on a cross-country trip to Hollywood for a national drag queen competition. Now, this was your movie recommendation, Nate. Was there anything specific why you recommended this?
Well, I just think you need to broaden your horizons a little bit and stop being so bigoted from your small Pennsylvania town. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously just jokes. No, you're one of the biggest Patrick Swayze fans I know, and I thought that this would be kind of like an underseen movie in his filmography. I figured you hadn't seen it before. And also, it's a great, like, studio comedy, in my opinion. There's a lot of things about this movie that I love. Some things I don't. I'm sure we'll touch on those.
Yeah.
But in general, like, this is a great film.
I was about to say, overall, I loved it. This is one of the funniest movies I think you have ever recommended to me. The performances are kind of incredible.
Yeah.
I wasn't especially with how the trailer presented itself. We watched the trailer off camera together. I thought, we would see them, not be drag queens in the beginning of the movie, but no, you're right into it. And then they are drag queens for the entire movie. It's bold and it works, I think, for the better of the movie. Like, if you kind of went back and forth, I think you kind of lose what the movie's trying to do, but this is like perfect. Like, it's totally sold me on the concept immediately.
I think this movie has aged extremely well.
Especially with RuPaul's Drag Race and countless other, drag queen content that's huge right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's like a few elements that, like, I mean, there's like dark humor and it's like, it's genuinely funny.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's like, in a Blazing Saddles sort of way, there's like a few jokes that you probably can't do nowadays without people getting a little offended.
Yeah.
But
and I feel like if they did this now, it'd be actual drag queens in the roles. I don't think you would have actors be drag queens. At least, like, I would assume that's what it'd be. Because, I mean, because of the success of, RuPaul's Drag Race, why wouldn't you just use people from that?
Speaking of, did you catch the RuPaul cameo in this movie?
So, was it RuPaul's voice?
No.
Okay.
So, at the beginning, they have the Drag Queen of the Year contest in, like, the New York Drag Queen of the Year contest, which is like a pageant for drag queens, which, as someone who's been to dozens of pageants, this looks way more fun.
Yeah,
I would go to this.
The regular pageants are boring. They're kind of weird. I've never been a big pageant guy either. This just looks like everybody's having a good time here.
At the end, when they have the last year's winner, and it's Rachel Tensions, and it's the drag queen in the Confederate flag. Oh, that's RuPaul.
Okay, because I thought the voice, the speaker voice in that scene was RuPaul. It kind of sounded like RuPaul. And I figured RuPaul be in it, but I wasn't sure if it was or not.
Yeah. So that's fun. That scene's got a lot of great gags. Also, this movie's got a really damn good soundtrack.
Yes,
like every needle drop, I was like, "Oh, this is like a good remix." Like it's almost like that thing where, like, I know a lot of people hang out at gay bars because usually pretty cheap, usually pretty heavy on the pours, and usually the music's better. And this movie gets the vibe of that extremely right.
Yeah, the whole beginning, like, it puts you right into it. Like it is like exactly what you're in for with this movie. It is insane. I mean, the Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, and John Leguizamo, who wasn't as big as Snipes and Swayze at the time, just an insane project to do for Swayze. I mean, this is, I think, was Point Break 95? I think this might be the same year as Point Break.
Point Break was 1991, so this
91.
was 4 years after Point Break.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was like, 6 years after Dirty Dancing. Like, when
was White Man Can't Jump?
White Men Can't Jump was, I think, the year before this, 1990. might have been 91. This might have been the same year as White Men Can't Jump, which is crazy because that basketball scene where Wesley Snipes is playing women's basketball and dunks on them is crazy.
I was waiting. I was. Yeah. As soon as that scene happened, I'm like, oh, Wesley Snipes got to do a crazy like layup or dunk here.
Oh yeah, I think it is like a layup, but like she goes all
He
the way
should
up
have
to
dunked.
rim.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah, it would have been funnier if she dunked.
The no, overall, like it's a really good like under the radar comedy. Like I pretty much never heard of this film until you brought it up on the show, and I feel like it's only gonna get aged better. When I went on Letterboxd to log it, it's got an average of 4 stars. Like people
That's
who
great.
have seen it love it. So it seems to have like a cult following.
I think it's been reclaimed. I think the gay community like loves this movie for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
It really is like one of the most accessible studio comedies I can think of. Like the plot. So I guess maybe not everyone listening actually watched the movie. If you haven't, before we get into spoilers, pause the podcast and check it out.
Yeah.
But we'll go on for a little bit longer before we go too much into the plot. But like the basic premise is this drag queen of the year contest is going on. Both Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze's drag queens win, and so they get the opportunity to go compete at like the national competition in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it's like a free paid for trip, and they get to go. And Patrick Swayze's drag queens kind of got this like ability and like this nurturing and like wants to bring people in the community along for the trip as well. And that's where they meet Chi-Chi, who's John Leguizamo, who is just so fucking good in this movie. Completely unrecognizable.
No.
Like, not a single frame of this movie do I think... I mean, like, Wesley Snipes the least. Like, you kind of see... I mean, he's so muscly. It's, like, kind of hard not to see. But, like, I totally lose Patrick Swayze in this movie. I totally lose John Leguizamo in this movie. Like, they are... like perfect.
When Swayze's wig comes off in one scene, you're kind of startled because you're just so used to that character being in the wig and everything. It was kind of a reminder like, oh, this is Patrick Swayze.
Yeah. And anyway, so they decide to get an old Cadillac and drive it across the country instead of a
Toyota
of flying. Yeah, and they choose not to get the Toyota. They're like, we have to look good if we're gonna be traveling across the country in a car. Which that scene is so funny. I love how they pull the Cadillac up to like this exaggerated mirror with lights, and then it's like, are we gonna take this? And the car dealer's like, ladies, please take the Toyota. You'll get there. And then they're like, beauty or practical? And then they just send it in the Cadillac, and it does not go well. They make it like somewhere in the South.
The one thing I wasn't expecting from this movie is I thought it was going to be like a road trip movie, but the road trip pretty much stops a little less than halfway through the movie, and then it's like, oh, this is the central location now. And at first I was kind of like rolling my eyes like, is this where I want to be for the rest of the movie? But they sold me on it. The relationship the town has with the drag queens like really worked.
Yeah, I really like the eccentric cast of characters in the town and like how the drag queens coming to town changes their like lives or changes their appearance or changes like their aesthetic. I could see some people finding that problematic, but anyone who says that is going to come off as the sheriff in this movie. There's an evil sheriff who is trying to kill them in this movie.
It's so fucking funny.
It's the guy from Reservoir Dogs who plays like the son of the mob boss.
Oh, okay, because I kept looking at him like, where do I know this guy from?
Yeah, he's in like 3 movies. He's in Reservoir Dogs, he's in this, and he's in Beethoven 2. And then he like died of a heart attack or something. I have no idea where this guy is. If he's still alive, please be in another movie. You're great. Great heel.
He just totally sells it well. His checklist and everything is crazy.
Where do gay people hang out? And it doesn't say gay people. It says a different slur that I'm not going to say on this podcast. I had a whole other podcast for saying that slur.
And at least it works because the guy is the antagonist, so it's like he's gonna get his comeuppance. Like, you know, he's going to like get something's gonna happen to him at the end. When you go back into these '90s movies, sometimes you'll hear stuff and it's like, ooh, and it's like the main character saying it sometimes.
Yeah.
At least you don't have that problem
Well,
in this.
Wesley Snipes got a couple of those in this one.
That's
Yeah, there's some dark jokes. There's some dark references and shit in this that are really funny. But like, it's obviously played for laughs. These characters are extremely exaggerated. It doesn't come off tonally upsetting. Like this is very much like
It's
comedy.
It's a very like optimistic look on like drag queen culture, especially at the time, that a town, you know, in Midwestern America could accept this if, like, you know, done right, if they're just decent people. And I kind of feel like we need more movies like that. Like, yeah, I understand we needed Eddington once in a while to remind us that society sucks. I'm a little optimistic, and I like to think people like this actually do exist, that people will just be normal people to each other if you're just decent to one another.
I feel like it's one, they're all very good drag queens.
Yeah.
You know, they're not all like hyper camp with like the big overdrawn like eyebrows and blue eyeshadow. Like this isn't like a John Waters drag queen, which like I love them. They're divas. You know, do your thing. But they're almost in like more of a, they're trying to do like a convincing drag. I mean, it works for the dumb sheriff who pulls them over and tries to molest Patrick Swayze, which obviously that's not gonna go well. Also, can we talk about that? When Patrick Swayze's like, get your hand off my dick, and pushes the fucking cop over, he like dies for like 18 hours. Like Chi-Chi goes strutting over there and tries to get his pulse and is like, guys, don't quote me on this, but I think he's dead. Like, and then it's like the next day, mid-afternoon, his
same
deputies
position.
find him. He's in the same position, and like they just tap him and he starts talking. I'm like, what the hell happened? Did he like almost die of embarrassment?
I couldn't figure out like what they were gonna do. I'm like, is the cop actually dead? Because I'm like, it could be one of those movies where it's like a comedic death, but no, I think it works out for the better. And I really liked the stuff where they stay at the house of the wife of this car mechanic. They find out that the car mechanic is abusive to this wife, and I really like Swayze's kind of subplot here, trying to befriend this wife and help her out and let her overcome the demons of her husband. I thought all of that was just done really well, and, you know, had a very sweet ending as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the real like, I mean, there's like the plot conflict of this movie, which is like their car broke down and they're in this small town and have
the movie kind of doesn't have a plot for like 10 minutes after the car breaks down.
Oh yeah, that's like that's the one part of the movie, if I have a lot of notes about, is before the one guy Billy Ray comes and picks them up in his pickup truck. I'm like, oh god, are we gonna watch like a road trip movie now where like they don't have a car and they're all just complaining and bickering and there's infighting the whole time? Because like that would have been miserable, because obviously there's this like history and unspoken trust with Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze, but then with Chi-Chi, she's like ready to burn that bridge any moment she can, which is like shitty because their whole trip sucks because they brought her along instead of flying. So it's like, I'm like, damn, I don't want to watch like more than a few minutes of this. And then it's like 6 minutes later, he comes and picks them up and they're on their way. Which I do like a lot.
It's such a strong like second half. Like, it could have just been one of those like skippable comedies if it was going that road trip route. You're right.
I have a question for you. Does this do the big city and the small town better than Doc Hollywood and better than Cars? Question mark.
It does have a similar plot to Cars. They're pretty close. I mean, because they put together the Strawberry Festival. It's very similar to the Life Could Be a Dream scene in Cars, where the town perks up because of Lightning's actions in fixing the road. Same with, you know, the drag queens. I don't know. They're very similar. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it's the same plot structure, ain't it?
Yeah, same with like Doc Hollywood, the Michael J. Fox movie from a little bit before this, I think.
Yeah.
Where it's Hollywood guy gets stuck in a small town and tries to, you know, find a way to make it work.
That's interesting. It is probably one of the best like fish out of water movies I've seen. Like if I had to
Yeah.
think of like a top 10, it'd probably be in there.
Well, the one thing I like about this is it doesn't fall too far into the fish out of water trope. It does that early with like a few scenes where they're like, I guess like the most fish out of watery it gets is before their car breaks down and they're trying to find the hotel and they're like at a sketchy kind of place and they don't know if they're gonna be able to get in. And then Chi-Chi's like, "Fuck it, we're going in. I don't want to sleep in the car." And then they find out that there's a women's basketball like conference there, which is awesome. I love that. I really love that scene with the nerd emoji waiter guy who's like, "Ladies, come on in. Your friends are already here." Like that is like a joke on top of a joke. It's a hat wearing a hat that works so fucking well when they have the reveal of women's basketball team. Another question I have is this the best movie about transphobia specifically in Pennsylvania?
I mean, that's very specific, so I'm gonna say yes.
So this is the Mount Rushmore for like half the people we know in PA.
It's interesting because of how like they touch on a lot of different subjects in this movie with that small town too, because you also had a little racism topics thrown in there with the one man in charge of the now cafe, and that he was, you know, kind of afraid to talk to the one girl, and we knew by the cop it was kind of it was a little bit of a racist area, unfortunately. And like, and then you also had little things like, then this, I have an unanswerable question here. I guess it could be answerable. Bobby Ray was at first in love with Chi-Chi and then fell for Bobby Lee. I was waiting for the gag to turn out for it to turn out that Bobby Ray and Bobby Lee were like cousins. And I still think they are.
All right, well, maybe you know, try that in a small town.
I was like waiting for it to like for the mother to turn and be like, yeah, I mean they grew up together as cousins as they were like dancing or something.
I'm really glad that it doesn't get to the point where Bobby Ray has to like get physical with Chi-Chi, because like I feel like that could have been a really awkward scene in like a not great way. Like there's not really a way to write that.
It would have been one of those scenes
really
where you just don't want to watch it because it's going to be a little awkward.
And I love that the characters have the foresight to advise Chi-Chi to avoid that situation. And that's when she's like, I got to give up this man, even though he's been really nice to me and finds me attractive and all that. Like, he's admitted that he's not one to keep a secret and doesn't want me to keep one. So I got to step away. Like, that's one of those slices of the movie that I think is really great and really beautiful and holds up extremely well.
The and Chi-Chi admitted she was only doing it for like a fling. Like, and it's not like there was actually something deep there.
Another element of this movie that I think is really, really great is, I guess, like, arrested development of Patrick Swayze's character, where, like, they drive through her hometown at one point, and they have this really cool shot that you don't see very much, where it's a whip zoom up to the front door that zooms out, and then the reverse shot of her driving the car, where it's like, it's almost like a vertigo shot, but also like a zoom at the same time. And that's when she sees her mother, assumedly, at the front door. Yeah. And then rips up the map and is like, fuck it, we got to get out of here.
And I thought the movie was going to end with her going back to the house. I'm kind of glad it didn't. Yes. You know, it's kind of to show, like, that the movie's so optimistic at the end. So I think that would have been a little too over the top if they did that.
Well, and the scene at the very end, I guess to, like, spoil, where they invite the wife of the mechanic who's been like their host for this whole thing. They're like, come along with us to Hollywood, you'll have a great time. She's like, no, I can't, I gotta like, I've got daughters to raise and stuff like that. Who knows if my husband's coming back and if we're gonna get back together or whatever, you know. There's a lot of things that are still in the middle of but she says I love you to her, and she's like, I've been waiting my whole life for someone to say that to me, to my name, like with that name. And like, you kind of already get that closure of like what that scene would look like if they went home. And I don't think it matters that they get accepted at their house, because a lot of people in this community aren't. But what it matters is it's one more way she feels accepted in normal society. And that's what's important.
I'd be down for a remake of this. I kind of think be cool to see a remake of this now with like
Okay. Cast your remake.
I don't think I'd want actual like actors though, because I feel like because
Okay.
of the success of RuPaul and that now I would want actual people in that community like being able to have a platform and have a big feature film. At least I don't know.
That's
That's how
cool.
I feel.
I like that. I do think a big part of the like marketing for this movie is like the fact that they are A-list stars. Like I don't know if this movie
They had to
then,
do that in the
yeah,
90s. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if this movie gets made back then without like at least two A-list stars and then a pretty young John Leguizamo. But man, thank God that they were down and like committed. Like
super committed.
I lose Patrick Swayze in Vita so many times in this movie where I'm like, I kind of forgot Patrick Swayze was even in this and they're the main character.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's, I mean, like, obviously Patrick Swayze was a dancer before he was an actor and kind of fell into acting through his background in dance, found a bunch of roles that worked for him. We don't really have a ton of actors like that nowadays.
Yeah.
The only one I could think of is Channing Tatum.
Tom Holland came from Broadway, right?
True.
Yeah,
You got
Billy
some theater
Elliot.
guys.
Yeah. It could be that route.
But I wonder, he's so good in this movie. I wonder if there's a part of him that's been there before in some capacity.
Yeah.
Whether he was queer or had done drag or something like that before. I don't know how. Like the mannerisms and it's so good.
He's just such a charisma machine. I talked about this when we talked about Point Break a little bit. I mean, Swayze, like when he commits, he just commits. Like he took a nothing character in Bodhi and turned him into such an interesting guy you wanted to learn more about. And he did the same with this, where because the plots they're nothing special, but these performances just sell you so much on everything, and Swayze, is leading that.
Yeah, I also like the scene where Noxima and Chi-Chi are kind of both dogpiling on Vita to not get involved with the domestic violence thing. And like while they're always trying to help people, and it's very clearly like they want to fix up the small town that they crash into. They want to bring Chi-Chi along.
They don't paint them as saints. Like they're not superheroes in this movie either. Like it's also to show they are that. No, I know in a way they are, but they're also painting them as like they're people too with
well, there is the Wonder Woman remix montage where they decorate their room, which is awesome.
Yeah.
When they realize they're going to be stuck there for a few days and they're having a meltdown, they just start going through all their luggage and hanging up all these like curtains and scarves and shit everywhere, and then they make it look really nice. I love that scene.
It's yeah. Where would you put this on Swayze performances?
Oh man.
Because I think it's up there.
It might be his best performance. If I'm being honest. I think he's one of those guys that like I know a lot of it was probably health reasons. I wish did more.
Yeah.
Like there's so many gaps in his career and it was a pretty short career all said and done.
Yeah.
I think he crushes it in Donnie Darko, where he's kind of like this villain, like televangelist type guy.
I was about to say the direction he was going before he sadly passed. Like, I think he would have been such a great supporting actor going into the 2010s. He would have had some Oscar noms. Like, he had a full second half of his career there, I think.
I mean, I think there's about 5 Brad Pitt roles in the late aughts, early 2010s that if you put Patrick Swayze
in F1,
yeah, I mean,
take
he'd
my
probably
fucking
be
money. It'd be a little too
old
if they made F1 like 7 years before. Like hell yeah.
But I think there's a couple of like really big roles that like that Ad Astra movie.
Yeah,
you got Swayze in there instead of fucking Brad Pitt. Maybe I wouldn't have fallen asleep in the theater.
It's
no promises. I'm not here for Star Dad.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, like Swayze's career is just it's so fascinating because I started to think of what kind of the Mount Rushmore of Swayze is. I was thinking about this before I saw this movie, and I I of course thought of Dirty Dancing, Ghost, Point Break, and then I threw in Donnie Darko as kind of like a what if of what his career could have been at the end. And now that I've seen this, it just pulled back another layer of this actor, and it's just such a shame we don't fucking have him anymore. Like, it does really suck. It's
Yeah.
another Heath Ledger situation where it's like, shit.
Yeah, so much potential that just unfortunately ended too soon. But that was the main reason I recommended this movie for you. I know you're a big Swayze fan, and this is one
Yeah.
of his lesser seen movies. I think this movie's gonna grow in appreciation over time. I mean, sitting on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 49%, which I think is disgusting. Like,
Yeah.
that's just I don't. It's not like the best plot ever. Like, I get
What
you could poke holes all over it.
what
But
was
I don't
what
know.
was the reception when it came out? Was it negative?
Mixed reviews.
Mixed?
I don't think it performed extremely well. I think it was a crowded week at the box office. If I don't remember,
I assume it
it-
wasn't that big of a budget. They're on like 2 locations. And what I was the small town they were even on. Was it a soundstage? It felt like a soundstage.
I'm pretty sure it was like a backlot soundstage.
Because when the scene where Billy Ray rescued Chi Chi from the group of men, which once again always weird when you have men in that movie that come off very not great. And whenever they get a redemption arc, I always feel icky about it. That always happens in older movies, and I just don't like it. But nonetheless, when he rescues Chi Chi and they drive around, I feel like they're just driving a circle. They like end up in the same area.
I do like the giant Coca-Cola sign that's repainted to Chi Chi.
Yeah.
That's like that is like a small town Mount Rushmore. Like he vandalized the Coke sign.
There's a really funny episode of George Lopez where him and Angie back in high school, George supposedly painted a mural of her on prom night, and that's why they fell in love. And then Angie, like years later, found out that he didn't paint it; it was somebody else. It was just a wall mural that looked like her. So the whole episode is like the fundamentals of our marriage is over because you lied to me about this painting.
I also really liked the little side plot with Noxima and the old lady that everyone's like, oh yeah, she's like deaf and mute. Like you can just throw shit at her now. And it's like she had a husband who was who owned the movie theater in town and then was cheated on her with some producer in LA and left. And I liked how Noxima, of all the characters, who kind of has the least to do, like she's kind of the most bitter that she's even in the situation, but she finds like this warmth in this woman and just rants at her and starts listing off all these movies, and then she starts talking, and by the end she's getting the beauty blowout and the wardrobe design as well. Like it's really sweet. As somebody who didn't grow up with grandparents because they all died before I was like really of age, it's I've had older people in my life that I've kind of had those great like 2-3 day long experiences, made fast friends with, and it's really sweet to see something like so small like that in this movie handled so well.
That's the beauty of like movies and music. They really are time capsules, and it's a way to bond with like people older than you in that. That's what's gonna happen to me. I'm just gonna go mute when I'm like 90, and then somebody's gonna come up to me and like say like a Knights of the Old Republic thing, and I'll wake up.
What's gonna be the thing that snaps me out of it? Someone's probably gonna go up to me, grab my head, and be like, "I see you," and then I'm gonna like come back from Pandora and be locked in. I'm so excited for Avatar 3, you have no idea.
Oh, it's gonna be a big episode on this pod. But yeah, overall I would definitely recommend this movie. There's a lot of people in my circle actually that I know would love this movie, so I think I will be shouting it out next time I see the friends. I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd. I think it's great. I think it's one of the best 90s comedies out there.
Yeah, this is a 4-star for me as well. And just because you were asking, I decided to do some half-assed internet research to kind of see what the reception of the time was. It seems like just generally people applauded the performances, but overall rated the movie pretty low. like they didn't like the plot, the script. They felt like it was too contrived and
is a
too
very
by the numbers.
It is very by the numbers, but the movies being the movies for the performances. You are going in to see those three actors. You're not there to see a complicated plot by any means.
My favorite review, of course, is coming from Roger Ebert. And he said, "What is amazing is how the movie manages to be funny and amusing while tiptoeing around sex, controversy, and any originality in the plot. Credit for what that belongs to Swayze, Snipes, and Leguizamo, who are surprisingly good at playing drag queens." Roger Ebert gave it a 2.5 stars in his review for the Chicago Sun-Tribune, and I believe Gene Siskel gave a more positive review. Predicted early in Oscar season, predicted an Oscar nomination for Swayze. And gave it a 3.5.
Wow.
So
that would have been crazy.
I feel like that captures it pretty well.
That would have been
people
a crazy
like the
Oscar nomination.
I think I could see it. 95 was a pretty stacked Oscar year, so I don't.
Yeah, the 90s in general, it was kind of tough to snag an Oscar nom. So maybe if it was in the 2000s or the 2010s, that would have been a little easier.
My girlfriend Cameron, my beautiful girlfriend Cameron, who I have to mention at least once an episode, it seems, suggested to keep the legacy of this alive. This would make a pretty good musical because the plot is so bare.
Good point.
And you could show off
it's
really
pretty much
cool,
one location.
You could show off really cool drag performances. You could have a really elaborate opening number with the pageant, and then a fun little road trip montage and a few song sequence, and then they're just broken down in this small town for a while. A lot of the character moments are asides, and they're two people scenes with dialogue. Change those into songs. The one where they go to the town thrift shop and get all the cool 60s clothing.
Yeah,
that's like throw in a Hairspray welcome to the 60s-esque number. I see the vision.
Yeah,
this would make a good musical.
The Criterion cover of this would go hard.
Yeah, so I guess that's another thing I should mention before we segue to the other topic. There is like a companion movie to this called Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is a very similar movie, except it's two drag queens and a transvestite are going across coast to coast in Australia. Oh. And that's got a really, really great couple of breakout performances. It's got Hugo Weaving in it. The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Hugo Weaving, Stephen Elliott, Terrence Stamp, Guy Pearce, early role for him. That one's a lot darker. And it came out the year before and is an Australian movie. That one is a musical. But while I believe, Warner Brothers was putting out To Wong Fu? Universal Pictures was like, oh shit, because they already had this project in development years before. The original script for To Wong Fu was like, I believe in like the 80s, and there's that one scene, Robin Williams.
Yes, I forgot about the Robin Williams cameo.
Scene. He's the one who gets them the car and buys their plane tickets off of them, and he's in this that gay bar in that gay lounge in Times Square needs to come back. That is in that scene. I would hang out there all the time. Bring that shit back. With all the photos on the wall.
Yes.
That's where they take the Julie Newmar signed photo. But apparently in